We don't do Black Friday here on Kicking the Seat. We do Emerald Friday, and that's what we're here tonight. We're talking about Wicked for Good, aka Wicked Part 2, the sequel to the smash hit musical the big screen adaptation of the musical, which was based on a novel, which was based on a book, or a film that was based on a series of books. It's all very twisty and turny, and I think a lot of that's going to come up tonight in our discussion of Wicked for Good. We are Earth's Mightiest critics. We're here to talk about a movie that smashed records last weekend at the box office. And I don't know how well it's going to fare against Zootopia too. But yeah, people seem to really dig this movie, although not perhaps as much as they liked the first part of it. So I'll be keen to get into that. I want to start off by introducing myself. I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Jeff York of The Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists. We have the Wickedful Blonde, aka Katie Glidewell, of The Blonde in Front, just in case people are wanting to look her up officially, because I don't know, the Wickedful Blonde, that might be a time for a rebrand, Katie.
I know that sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And we have Mark, the great and powerful movie man of Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room podcast. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be a fun one. I'm going to kick things off by reiterating my stance from last year's Wicked live stream, which was a year and a day ago. So this is a perfect anniversary. Yeah, it's crazy. I just don't like Wicked. That's where I left off last year because I saw the stage play, the musical, had not read the book by Gregory Maguire at that point. And I had seen the first installment of the first chapter of Wicked, directed by Jon M. And while I appreciated Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and the rest of the cast did a great job, it looks like $1 million. I just didn't like the story. I thought that the roommate situation between Elphaba and Galinda, who would go on to become the Wicked Witch of the West, and Galinda the Good Witch and the Wizard of Oz, respectively, we all know and love. This is sort of their backstory. It just felt a bit too sitcom-y to me. Although I did love in the last 20 minutes when it sort of, I think I described it as the time it became a real movie, where it got into some heavy themes and the wizard's dastardly deeds and got into this sort of this political undertones or even overtones. I got into it, but then it was over. And I thought, well, I didn't like the second half of the musical that much. So how much am I going to like the second installment of this as a feature-length film, running it again, 2 hours and 15 minutes? Well, the answer may surprise you, or it may not. I loved Wicked for Good. I did not expect to even like it. My appreciation of it runs contrary to my thoughts on Frankenstein, which we discussed on the show a few weeks ago, a movie that I lambasted for not having any resemblance to the source material. Wicked for Good and Wicked Part 1 are very different from the novel, which I have started reading in the last couple of weeks. I'm about a third of the way through. So there is still a long way to go. But thematically, in terms of tone and characters and the events, there are a huge contrast between the book and how it was adapted to the stage and then to the big screen. What I admire about Wicked Part 2, or Wicked for Good, is that this is where the story really takes the dark and mature turn. It's a year later from the events of where we left off, from Defying Gravity, where Elphaba leaves Galinda and the land of Oz, or the Emerald City, behind to go strike off on her own because she realizes that the wizard is a corrupt politician who's trying to control everybody and ban the humanistic animals. It's very much in keeping with what Maguire did in his book, which is strange to think it was written 30 years ago, or it came out 30 years ago, and yet has a lot of relevance in terms of things that you can see in the headlines, not just today, but in the decades since. It shows the cycle of particularly American politics, where we never seem to learn anything. Not that this is a heavy-handed movie, but it is a very allegorical one. You can come at it from many different angles. But yeah, I dug the fact that they kind of got rid of the bubblegum candy-coated business from the first part of the movie, and it really got serious. And it was very satisfactory to me anyway. Now, I've heard that since it made $150 million last week at the domestic box office, that there's now interest in expanding it and doing more movies in this universe, to which I say, no. The sequel to Wicked is called The Wizard of Oz, and I think we can be just fine there. But, I've been surprised before, as evidenced by my soliloquy just now. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to go around and get some high-level opinions from the rest of the panel. Mark, I want to start with you because
No, you don't.
Less than thrilled about Wicked.
You don't want to start. We start with them.
No,
I'm
starting with you. I'm splashing. I'm throwing a bucket of water on you. We'll see if you melt or rise to the occasion.
No, I didn't. I did not hate it. I was not as impressed with it or enjoy it as much as the first one. I still enjoyed it. I think I would have enjoyed this part of the story more had they cut out chunks of the first one and cut out chunks of this one and made it just one movie. One of the problems I had with the first one was that just as I was getting into it, similar to you, it ended. It was like, oh, and then we get here, but we get a time jump of a year later. And I'm like, okay. And, for me, as far as the film goes, I get the, thematically, and I liked some of the setup. For me, what took me out of it was the introduction of the Oz characters that are from the first film. Mostly because
just to clarify, the Oz characters from the original
film,
not
yes.
the first film being Wicked Part 1, but
yes, and arguably the books,
the Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. I had an issue with the way they set them up. I understand this is kind of an alternate storyline, but at the same time, even some of the calls that they did, if you're doing the alternate, that's fine, then give me some time with the other characters. We mostly hang with the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, barely. And if you're going to give one of them a full song number, please introduce me to how the Dorothy and the Scarecrow are in this one, more so than just a few seconds or a silhouette of said characters. Because if you're going to include them as this is an alternate story, because the Tin Man in here is far more bloodthirsty, which is fine. And I have no problem with that. But as a movie, as someone not familiar with the Wicked play and not familiar with the Wicked book, as far as those characters go, for me, putting them in there kind of made things a little bit rough for me. And there were a few other elements, which I'm sure we'll get into. I mean, overall, it was fine. I still enjoyed it. I gave it like 3.5. Maybe
that's high praise, though,
which is still viewable because it, as a movie, cinematically fantastic. Just the story I did not care for as much in here, only because of the elements they tried to work in, because there were far more connections with the Wizard of Oz, the Dorothy story, angle, more connections in here. Yet what they do with those connections don't feel like they have enough setup for me to justify what they do to those characters in here. And therefore, for me, it kind of took me, I wish they weren't in there. I was all in on the Elphaba and Galinda story and all of that. I love that. I love the angle with the wizard as well. But with those other characters kind of working their way more into the main subplot, so to speak, for lack of a better term, it took some away from me. So by the end, I was just like, oh, and I had a lot of head scratching questions.
Well, maybe we can get to some of those, because I liked a lot more of that stuff than you did, but I also had some questions, and I'm hoping that my panel here can help me answer some of those questions and fill in some gaps, because it has been a long time since I've read or watched the musical, and I'm still wading through the book. So I understand the movie has to stand on its own, but maybe some additional context could help. Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Wicked for good.
Well, I must say I'm probably slightly prejudiced on all of this, but I like all the Wicked stuff. I think it's a fascinating story. I love the books when I read them as a kid, and I love the original movie. It's one of my top favorite films of all time, and I like the musical. And I know that there's differences and yet, criticisms of each of these things that I think are justified in many respects. Now, can you get past that? For me, what I loved about Wicked, and I loved about Wicked for Good, is I think they are very successful musical adaptations of a very specific take from Broadway that even on that would have been very difficult to do and do right. And we know that because there's been so many musicals that had far less of a lift, and they screwed them up over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, you can count on one hand really good Broadway musical adaptations to the big screen. And I think both of these work really well. Now, I'm going to agree actually with both of you. I think that it probably could have been done as one movie. I think they could have simplified some of the things in the second movie. It is weird, and I will say this, the one thing that I think is a little bit odd when you're watching the Broadway show is, oh, so that's the Tin Man? How does that work? Like, what does he need from Oz? And that's really, really going far afield. And, it's cute, and some of it's very clever the way they do it. I mean, the whole thing is revisionist. My God, going back to Maguire's novel, it's so incredibly different, though they have those things in there too, but they are very different as well. So it's all this, we are reinterpreting this, reimagining it, taking these sort of, stock characters or very iconic characters and playing with them for various purposes. Modernity of it, certainly cynical, less than fairy book sort of fairy tale sort of take on it, as well as political commentary. Gregory Maguire is a homosexual writer. He was writing this during, times when there was prejudice against gay marriage and coming off of AIDS and things like that. So those are themes here, as well as anybody can relate to any of those themes. I mean, I think anybody feels somewhat oppressed anytime. I mean, as a left-hander, I lived in a right-hander world and never once had a desk with a decent armrest for me. So, there's all kinds of...
Jeff, I just want to pull over for a second. I
Yes.
want to pull over for a second. I did not know that about Gregory Maguire, but knowing that now puts some of what I was reading in the novel into context, because when you get to the description of Bach's, friends, like, oh, well, that's very interesting. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, but for me, what I really think was well done is what they did decide to sort of, dare I say, concentrate on. And that includes in the Broadway musical, because they had to streamline some. I mean, that book is so dark and cynical. I don't think they could have done that. It's certainly not just as a 3-hour movie, musical that's going to appeal to as many quadrants as they can. And let's face it, it appeals to all 4 quadrants. It sells out every Gershwin theater attendance, has for 22 years, and it's the biggest theater in Broadway. But I thought the movie was done very well by concentrating on the story between Elphaba and Galinda and sort of what their differences are. And I think what I liked about this movie compared to what you said, Ian, from the first is it is a little sitcom-y, like, 2 roommates, it's The Odd Couple, except pretty girls, where this one is more about, okay, Galinda's being set up as the face of this regime. She's selling it because she's nice and pretty and sweet and clever and funny and witty to, make these bad things palatable to the rest of Oz, and doing the bad sort of face work, if you will, for the real puppet master, and that's Madame Horrible, which is not a coincidence that it rhymes with horrible. And if you do the 2 M's and turn them upside down, she becomes the Wicked Witch. Anyway,
I hadn't even thought about that. That's great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. But what I loved about this movie is actually the darkness, because I'm going to be one of those weird guys who, as a Broadway musical fan, defends when Broadway musicals get dark, because they so often don't, and they're daring when they do. One of the things I remember hearing people, just as a quick analogy, is when they saw the musical by Stephen Sondheim called Into the Woods, which I don't think was a very successful movie. Again, hard to do adaptations. A number of people I know said, that musical would have been great if it ended at the first act. It's like, well, yeah, everybody gets what they want at the end of the act. But then the narrator says, to be continued, it's like, now we come back and those people aren't happy with their happy endings. And of course, that's the reality of it. People aren't. And I thought that's when the musical became actually genius, is that Stephen Sondheim looked at this and went, okay, none of these people are happier. And, and then that great melody at the great song at the end about careful of the things you tell children, because they will listen and learn from you. You can tell them the old goofy fairy tale stuff, but the real McCoy is what you're setting as an example. So for me, this one, by being darker, I think in some respects became even stronger, because I think it takes these characters, which could have been sitcom-y, Oscar and Felix in a way, and they go very dark with them and very sad with them. And I mean, I'll just quickly say, and then I'll shut up and let Katie talk. But I was very impressed by Ariana Grande in the first movie, and even more so here. I didn't know what she was as an actress. Obviously, she's been in a couple things. She's very funny on Saturday Night Live. She's got a Mel Brooks, Blake Edwards sense of shtick to her, which is amazing considering she's under 30, and you don't expect people like that to know how to be, Peter Sellers or Carol Burnett and Sid Caesar or Imogen Coca, but she seems to know that. But she also plays the pathos very well. And when she's upset and sad and realizing, I mean, I think the best number, other than no good deed goes unpunished, is that song when she sings, I couldn't be happier, and then it's like she's not happy at all. And that's the first big song in the second act. So it lays the groundwork for that, being dark. There's that great line where she says, sometimes you cross a bridge and don't realize you've crossed it until you've crossed it. Like, I've already become this bad thing, and I realized it too late. Now, while it's going on, after I've become it, I think that's pretty daring for a show, especially one that's aimed at, repeat business from teenagers, especially teenage girls. So I applaud a lot of what they did here and liked it. Though I do agree that some of the, is it just me, or did the Scarecrow look like Ryan Reynolds? I don't know. That was a little.
There's a lot of those
weird
memes.
That too. Which is like, couldn't they give him eyebrows? Couldn't they give him a darker nose? He looked so much.
Well, they
like,
did give him they did give him the dark nose, but you only see it really in one shot when he's walking away and turning back, and then you see, it's got the triangle kind of cut out. Unfortunately, I saw the memes about Jonathan Bailey looking like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and I'm like, oh no! So that was in my head. I hadn't really. I think I'd heard about the memes before I saw them, and then I watched the movie. I'm like, that's what they were talking about. I can't get out of my head, and it's not fair. So damn it, I hate the internet. But we're going to get back to the Scarecrow and also particularly the Tin Man, Mark, because I think you bring up a really good point. I need some context for that character here. But Katie, the wicked full blonde, bring us home with your high-level thoughts, and then we'll get into some of the meat of this movie.
Well, I think Wicked for Good is wickedly fantastic. I liked it from beginning to end. I disagree. I do think these needed to be 2 films. At the end of Wicked, that song by Cynthia Erivo, and I have said this on many things, I had a physical reaction to that. To have that in the middle of the movie and then go on to this, I think would have been a travesty. You needed to have that at the end of the first film.
Intermission. I think that would have been a perfect 15-minute intermission.
Yes, but I don't know.
I totally see where you're coming from, Katie. I don't mean to cut you off, but I've been kind of wrestling with this too, because I think Wicked for Good makes Wicked Part 1 stronger. Although I'm kind of agreeing with Mark, there's some stuff I would have excised some of this silliness, because I almost feel like you could walk out of Wicked Part 1 like, oh, this is a silly, girl roommate movie set in the land of Oz, and completely miss all of the really heady good stuff later on. But yeah, I'm of 2 minds there. So please continue.
To continue, and I disagree, because I think that, the first film is about 2 girls who are at school. Everyone thinks they know who Galinda is. Elphaba never got a chance, never had any friends. They form this friendship that actually is probably the first for both of them, because as Galinda says, in the second film, I've had so many, but none that really mattered. Yeah. And Elphaba says, like, you're my only friend, and you're my first and only friend. Mm-hmm. And Wicked for Good truly goes into who is Wicked. And it's supposed to be all the people who are on this like higher pedestal. Galinda, her people, when she does the stuff with Morrible and, ends up Nessa Rose getting what happens to her. And Nessa Rose, who does the unthinkable, who in many aspects, when she's given power, which I think is the point of, Wicked in general, power corrupts people, power makes people evil, that they do horrible things. And Elphaba's, throughout the film, all she wants is truth. All she wants is to do the right thing and know who she is and, this. And then when she does find that out, everyone then tries to go after her. Like with Morrible can't stand Galinda and I love the fact that Michelle Yeoh does that without an ounce of I just love the fact that Marvel never ever tries to hide how much she despises Glinda, but she knows she has to use her because Glinda is the face of what they're doing. And despite the fact that she knows she has no magical powers, nothing about her is worthy of what she's been given. And all she can think about is like, oh, this should have been Elphaba the entire time. I love these performances. I love the chemistry that these people have. I love the fact that, you know, Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey have one of the, and I mean, people can say this is a kid's movie. It's a movie. I don't think this is necessarily a kid's movie.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily show anything, but that scene between Elphaba and Fiyero is one of the hottest scenes I have seen this year. And those two people are fire.
Well, the character's name is Fiyero, so
yeah, he's a Fiyero, which was a good car for a while, but
I know it doesn't matter if she's going to melt with fire. There's some like people were melting in that theater when you saw those two people together. I love the fact that, and I'm honestly very, very proud of a number of kids that I know that have seen this film that are like, I thought it was great. I mean, Elphaba just wanted the truth to come out, and like how everyone's trying to, you know, keep her down. And it's like, you always have to fight for what's right. I'm like, good. Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. And I love the fact that, you know, you have that connection in the beginning of the film when all these lies are being spread about Elphaba. And one of them is that she's so evil and her soul is so full of dirt or something that if you throw water on her, she's going to melt. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Use it, twist it. And that's what they did. And I just think this is a great movie.
That's something I want to put a pin on too, because that's another question I have for the group. So I'm just trying to keep a tally of things I want to talk about here. So yeah, so I'm really glad that you loved it. I think yours was one of the first reactions that I saw for it, that you had, you know, you were really enthusiastic about this.
I'll just see myself to the door then.
No, Mark,
have fun.
We are all more in agreement that we're in a disagreement.
There are two things that weren't really necessary, and those are the two added songs, which is Girl in the Bubble and No Place Like Home. Those honestly I think were just filler to possibly be like, you know, an Oscar grab to see if they can get either one of those to get a nomination. And honestly, I'm going to say no. I think they're fine. I don't think they were necessary or needed, and I don't think they honestly made the film better. I will say though that after watching this, and I think I said it in my little Ariana Grande is my vote for Best Supporting Actress. Like, I thought Cynthia Erivo stole the show. Again, physical reaction when she sang Defying Gravity. I have seen that musical stage version 3 times. I've heard it 18 jillion times. If anyone has any musical theater friends, believe me, I've heard that. The fact that I would start crying and I did not know why the 2 times that I saw it, honestly surprised the hell out of me. Did I think that there was that kind of song in this film? No. But I think, you know, Change for Good is beautiful. The lyrics are absolutely exquisite. But Ariana Grande's performance, yeah, that was I mean, I figured that both of them are probably going to get nominated for Oscars and all that stuff, but honestly, I think Ariana Grande is the one to beat for Best Supporting Actress. Like, that is the biggest surprise to me of this whole thing. I mean, I think she's great. I'm not saying anything about her, but she was freaking phenomenal in this. And yeah,
and that's sort of what I meant about this movie making the first part better. Is I liked her in part 1. I found her character to be obnoxious, but that's just, you know, who Galinda was, you know, as she coming into school. But the fact that she got this, she was able to develop this maturity as a character and possibly as an actress. I haven't seen her in a whole lot, you know, other than this movie. You know, it was very impressive. I did like the Girl in the Bubble song. I thought that was pretty effective. I think the problem with the second part of the musical, and as I said, and the second, part of the film, is you can't come back from Defying Gravity. It's just too good a song. I think what the interest and the compensation, though, are the revelations of the story and those connections to back to the Wizard of Oz. Because I don't think, I mean, when I saw Wicked, it had been out for a while. I saw it in Chicago, so it'd been on the circuit for several years. But I still didn't know anything about it except that it was like kind of the origin story of the Wizard of Oz. I didn't know that there was any overlap or intersection, and they save all of that for the second half of the story, and which I think that's great, because unfortunately the music doesn't carry you through. It's the kind of innovations in the story. The one thing I want to talk about is the Tin Man. I want to get back to him. Help me out here. In the stage play, was he this bitter? Because I vaguely remember Bach becoming the Tin Man, but I don't remember him being this angry and dark, because his character becomes frightening in this movie. He goes from the kind of the love-struck, dopey kind of sidekick character to being the jilted guy, to being politically persecuted, to being transformed into this metal monstrosity and becoming, I'm not going to say evil, but he gets
an axe-wielding psycho.
Yeah.
Literally an axe-wielding psycho.
Yeah.
And he's scary. The I don't know if this is, how much of this was CG or practical makeup effects, but the makeup work on his face, when you get some really great dark close-ups, I mean, that is like horror movie greatness right there. But it was kind of a shock to me because, again, I think, Mark, this is one of the connections that you were talking about back to the original Wizard of Oz. The Tin Man, who just wanted a heart, he was kind of a lovable character, and you wanted to see him get his heart, and you felt really bad for him. You want to give him a hug. This guy, Jeff, to your phrasing is perfect. The axe-wielding psycho. I don't want to be anywhere near him. I don't know how Dorothy went on any kind of an adventure with this cat. Not the lion, but this cat, colloquially.
And that's... And I guess that's where I had the issue with this film. There are so many characters and so many things that they need to cover that I feel we don't spend enough time with some of the newer characters to really give me a beat of the feeling of it, because it feels like, oh, there's this and go and move on. And I guess for me, I found those parts interesting and would have liked to spend more time with them rather than really fly through. Like with Elphaba's sister, it really turns quick. I mean, her turn in the way the film is edited and the way it proceeds. I mean, boom. You know what I mean? We don't get a I felt
she does have a turn, but she does feel bad about it. I mean, it's not like she is, Anakin and then Darth Vader in one scene. I mean,
I guess for me, it feels rushed, and this isn't the only film that has felt this way to me. And I don't know, maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I'm getting old and slow, but this is another film for me where I found some very interesting points. I found some very interesting characters that I wanted to spend a little more time with that we don't, because we've got so much ground to cover in this film that you get this boom, okay, this person's like this. And I'm like, yeah, and with the Tin Man, that was the exact question I had, Ian, was, okay, seeing how the Tin Man is like this, I needed to see how Dorothy was, because we don't see how Dorothy is at all in this. And I needed at least a little moment to justify why she would go with the axe-wielding Tin Man.
And I think, and honestly, I think that the Tin Man is he might be the key to that problem, because let me just posit something. And
that's fine.
This is alternate universe talk here, but if the Tin Man had been more of the way that he was portrayed in the original Wizard of Oz, would you have needed to see more of Dorothy and the lion and the scarecrow? Because to answer your question that you initially posed, or sort of the thing you were looking for, what was Dorothy like? I feel like everything else that we see in Wicked for Good what the glimpses we get of Dorothy as far as her character are consistent with the way she was played in the original Wizard of Oz. I mean, there's nothing apparently different, except for the big question is, why would she go on a journey with this guy who apparently had, severe anger issues and was kind of scary? But if Tin Man had been just the Tin Man that we all know, do you think that these other kind of Ozian problems and not spending as much time with these characters because we kind of already had in the other movie, would that have bothered you?
No, it wouldn't have, because I very much enjoy Elphaba, and I very much enjoy Galinda, and I liked the whole thing of the wizard and Michelle Yeoh's character, Morrow. I liked
Madam.
Yeah,
Madam.
Morrow was
Morrow.
from Alien Earth,
Sorry.
which we agreed never to talk about again.
Sorry.
Horrible rhymes with horrible. That's the way to remember.
Morrible. I have problems pronouncing names anyway, so we'll the mad with her and the wizard manipulating Glinda and Elphaba trying to clear her name and try to tell the truth. I loved that core story. It was whenever we moved away from them to the other characters,
the Wizard of Oz stuff.
Yeah, the Wizard of Oz stuff and the other. I liked those characters, but for me, I was so invested in that core story that I found these others a bit of a distraction, to where I was like, okay, I get it. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, here's where the slippers come in. Oh, here is where her sister's the other witch. I'm wondering, how they set that up, and that's fine. But I'm like, for me, I liked the core story so much of seeing Elphaba just trying so hard to clear and stay friends with Galinda, and Galinda being manipulated and all of that. I found that fascinating. So whenever we veered off to these other things to remind me, oh, hey, this is in the Oz universe. Oh, hey, here are the slippers. I didn't need that, because I really enjoyed that core story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think for me, these side branches of, hey, let's explore these other characters because we got to set up and kind of explain the links to the original story, even though they're alternate versions. I have no problems with dark versions of the characters, but if you want to give me dark versions of the Alice, not Alice, but the Dorothy characters, then give me a movie with the dark versions of the Dorothy characters. Don't kind of insert them, because for me, I think it's because Ariana Grande or Erivo, everybody, those characters, I found that story, I wanted to stick with that more, and we kept taking this side journey.
And I think that's the kind of conundrum with this, is that's the whole point of the second act of this play, is that it weaves into Oz, and it's kind of like the Back to the Future 2, when you're going back to the Future 1, and you kind of see what was going on in the parking lot at the dance, there were like actually two Martys running around, that kind of a thing. That's the entire kind of premise of the second part of the movie, which is fine, but I think you're picking up on something here, because this is not a dark version of Dorothy. It's a dark version of the Tin Man, which calls into question the relationships from the Wizard of Oz. So it's like, is this a prequel / paraquel to the Wizard of Oz that we all know and love, or is it something different? If it's something different, I agree it needs to be fleshed out. Something I was kind of messaging with Jeff about yesterday is, and this is before I had seen Wicked for Good, so I was still in that kind of skeptical mindset, is still only being a third of the way through the novel. I think it would be wonderful if someone someday adapted Gregory Maguire's novel, left all the music out of it, and just made Wicked, the book. And Katie, there's something that you had said earlier, and I know you kind of took exception to our criticism of the way the kind of the teen girls were portrayed in the first half of the film. It is very sitcom-y, it is very juvenile, and what I was looking for actually found in the pages of Maguire's novel, because it is the same situation of these two girls from different, socioeconomic and kind of cultural backgrounds being forced to room together in a boarding school, but it is mature and real, and the character dynamics are interesting, and they're not stuff that I've seen on 100, bad television shows aimed at teen girls. It was written by a guy, and yet, I mean, you would probably have to read this in order to tell me how I'm off base, because I've never been a teenage girl, but it felt very real to me, and it felt like something that, you said that you love the fact that kids are going to see this and appreciating it. And I am too, because I think especially the second movie is something, it's more along the lines of entertainment and smarts and really having something to say along with all the visual pizzazz that I think we need more of our kids imbibing. But I think that if there had been more of the book in that first half, I think it would have been even stronger, because the first half stuff, it is very poppy, it's bubblegummy. I know that's kind of the point, but it can be, I think, kind of a turnoff. It doesn't have to be that nakedly dumb. I mean, I love Legally Blonde as much as the next person, but it's hard not to see Galinda in the first half of this movie as just being Elle Woods in Fairyland. But yeah, this is all a way of being a huge commercial for Gregory Maguire's novel, Wicked, 477 pages. Oh, it's good stuff. So yeah, Katie, jump in.
Well, as we established, I've established with Frankenstein, I can't read. So I have not read the book yet.
They have audiobooks.
Words burn. Words burn.
I
will come act it out for you. Sorry.
Someone read it to me. But here's my question that I know you guys have brought up several times. In Wicked for Good, I know you say that it's a year since the end. Now I know in Filmland it's a year. However, does it specify that it's been a year? Because
they mention at the very beginning, I think it's the kind of the public broadcast announcement through Oz that it's been 12 cycles since the Wicked Witch, or since Elphaba went on the run or something. So I took that to mean 12 months.
Okay.
I thought it was almost days when they said cycles, because like the cycle of the day, but I wasn't quite sure what context that was.
That short, Mark.
I
mean, too much happens to be that short.
Right. No, I know.
That's head of the guard, and I mean, all that would take time to establish. And
I understand it. Yeah, but that's what I mean is I didn't know what cycles meant.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing. Even with a year, I felt like it was actually longer. I mean, the fact that Nessa Rose is now governor of Munchkinland, even for a year's time, and her taking over once her father died.
Katie,
felt like that seemed like it was, more than a year, and then Fiyero being captain of the guard. And I mean, I don't know how Shiz schooling works. If Galinda graduated or not, I guess not.
Katie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Katie, if 2025 has taught us anything, we can live 5 years in the course of one, in the course of 11 months.
Exactly.
That is very, very true.
How is this not relevant? I got to say, I think that the complicated part of the book and the Broadway musical and the movies are all the things that Mark is having trouble with. They were the biggest criticism of the Broadway show when it came out. They don't show Dorothy. She's not a character. She's a device. There's some legal ramifications. They don't have permission to show her in any way, shape, and form like she was exactly in the MGM musical. So there's some of that involved. But I think what they could have done a better job of explaining is actually minimalizing all of that a little bit more. I mean, I think it's clever that they have, Bach, who's, and then I think where it works here, if I dare say, is that these are Elphaba's attempts to use her witchcraft for good,
right?
But no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is she keeps trying and nothing is working. And even when she saves somebody's life, well, now they're mad because they're heartless tin and they're blaming her for it. He needs to blame Nessa, who screwed up Bach's life, et cetera, et cetera. But interestingly, in the book, and this is a scene they could have put in here, I would have actually asked, if I was the director, for them to at least write it and film it and see how it plays. But the wizard asks Morrible to get him a hitman. So Dorothy kind of does the dirty work. She doesn't know what she's being taxed with doing, but she's doing the dirty work for the wizard because he's a coward and he's this politician and this charlatan and everything else. Here you don't know. Well, wait a minute. Why is Dorothy here? What's going on? How did she meet this? And then you wonder. Well, at the end, it suggests that Fiyero set this all up with Elphaba, so he had to be sure that he was the first person she encountered, and then how does Bach come involved? And I mean, some of that could have been developed a little bit more because they don't really hear, so you're left to kind of into a put the intuition of your own mind on how it might have fit. But I think it might have gotten bogged down if they tried to do that too much. Maybe that's why they aired on the other side. But I think a little bit of that would have helped. And now in the book, they go much more into all of that because it takes place over decades. Wicked takes place over decades. And she returns to the characters and returns to the families, and there's children involved, et cetera, et cetera. So these things don't have to play out in sort of a given 2-year period or whatever it seems to be on the Broadway stage or here in the movie musical. It gets complicated. I think those are just little issues that maybe could have been smoothed out. I'm not sure they did them as well as they probably should have.
And I think you can do that again in the course of a 5-hour movie or 2.5-hour movies if you don't make them musicals, or if you make that into a limited TV series. Because what I'm asking for is going to be very difficult because these movies are very popular, they're doing very well, and they're talking about spinning them off and everything. So if someone says, "Hey, let's adapt Wicked," like, what are you talking about? We already did that. You got to wait like 20 years for someone to go back to the book, right? But as far as something you brought up, Jeff, that I hadn't really thought of is that the wizard as portrayed in Wicked, even in just the movie with Jeff Goldblum, I think, who was really given a chance to shine in this more so than the first part. He is the shadow, the mirror image of Dorothy and her friends. He has no courage. He has no heart. He's not very smart. Morrible is pretty much pulling the strings. And in the end, all Dorothy wants to do is go back home. And the last thing he wants to do is go home. And yet he's sent packing. And so I think that those are the kind of nice little genius twists to it. But I do want to ask about one of the biggest plot twists, because my understanding from the original Wizard of Oz, the first Oz book, and from what I've read of the novel, now I haven't finished it, as I keep mentioning, so I don't know if this twist is in there, but I always understood that the Wicked Witch of the West actually did have a deathly allergy to water. In the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, throws the water on her, she melts famously. In the novel, from what I've read, Elphaba, from being a child, she refuses to go down near rivers or any situation where she could get wet. She's skittish about it. So I understand that it's like a big twisty reveal, because that's pretty much what Wicked is premised on. Like, everything you thought there's a different side to it. At the end of the film, Wicked for Good, we get Dorothy splashing Elphaba with water and she melts. Come to find out, somehow she used some kind of illusion to transport herself down into a secret compartment under the floor, so the Scarecrow comes back and rescues her. So it turns out, to Katie's point, that the whole water thing was an illusion. But I don't know, that was a twist too far for me.
In the book, she is allergic to water, and they don't know exactly how bad that is and means. But she's different in the book too. She's got razor sharp teeth. She's much more angry by the prejudices against her. She grows angrier as the book goes on, as you'll read. So yeah, they did some twists and differences. Some of those are similar. I think you'll actually appreciate the way they incorporate here, and I think you can appreciate the way they incorporated some of the twists here. Even though I think that kind of thing seems a little bit pat, at the end. Even though it's interesting that she's going off with Fiyero, thinking that he may have not been saved. It's pretty interesting too. You think about this so clearly marketed towards kids with the dolls and some of the Happy Meals and some of that kind of stuff. And there's a scene where Fiyero was up on that almost like a cross being attacked. If that doesn't bring up Matthew Shepard and
I was
Jesus,
just going to say
and
that's
all those kind of different people who have been on some sort of cross. Even William Wallace being torn apart in that same shape at the end of Braveheart. It's like, geez, Louise, maybe you should check your PG-13 and what that really means, Mom and Dad. But I think to Mark's point also, anytime they go back to concentrating on, and the fascinating thing about this one is this is really all about Galinda realizing she's bad, to Katie's point. she's not good. She's bad. She's the villain here. And
Yep.
that's one of the things I loved about the first movie. And I thought this is going to be good right off the bat, because when she comes out in the Broadway musical and goes, "It's good to see me, isn't it?" It's funny. And then she tells a little bit, well, she did have a mom and dad, and she's a person too, and all this, but you don't realize that Elphaba, that Galinda was so complicit in it. And by doing it this way, those eyes are there. They have her light the pyre, which is very Wicker Man and stuff. And she looks already devastated. And I think from the get-go, Glinda knows she's not talented. She's there because of her family and her name and her money and her good looks and all that. And the other thing too that's different in the original, from the original show, is Elphaba is kind of a unmolded teen. She's not sure. Like when she dreams about the Wicked and the Wizard and I, she's really a guileless teenager wanting to do well and impress a teacher, sort of a master, as she wants to study. In the movie version, Elphaba shows up at Shiz pretty smart. She knows she's got talent. The big question is, will anybody care? Or can they get past the fact that she's green? No, they can't. And that I think is interesting too, because that's more often than not, I think the experience is that any kind of person who's probably discriminated against feels like, I can do this job. I have confidence in myself, but I don't know if people can see past whatever they see when they see me, which has nothing to do with the performance.
Right.
And so those two shifts, I think, made this deeper and darker and sets up that darker second movie better, which I really appreciate. And I think it comes to fruition. I mean, my favorite part of the end is when, Elphaba tells Glinda, it's okay. I'm going to be all right. I love you. She's telling her the truth. But Glinda doesn't know it. Glinda can never know the truth, because otherwise, she could ruin her thing and expose it or whatever and have them come after Elphaba again. But I also love it at the end when she goes, I would like to try to be Galinda the Good. Not I am going to be Galinda the Good. I would like to try to be Galinda the Good. And I think that's the key to living anyway. Every day is a new example, a new opportunity to try to be better.
And I think that's I understand where y'all are coming from as far as Glinda being the villain, which is, again, the polar opposite of her portrayal in the original Wizard of Oz. But I almost don't think that's fair. She's very much a tool, and in a lot of cases, she's kind of a willing tool. But by the end, I feel like she has learned a lot, and she's very sad and conflicted, so that she's going to your very point, Jeff, I think she's going to try and do good, which to me is, I don't know exactly what the term would be. I feel like there's probably something out there.
But she ends up the villain. I mean, Morrible is the straight out bad guy here.
Yeah.
Right.
But Glinda's enabling, which is, again, what's that line about all it takes for a country to crumble is for a good man to do nothing?
Sure, but I mean that's the thing, is I never occasionally I see her acting out deliberately in her own self-interest against Elphaba, but we mostly get that towards the end of Wicked 2 or Wicked for Good, when she's jilted because Fiyero has chosen Elphaba instead of her. And there's that deliciously weird cat fight on the yellow brick road, which I almost felt like was something out of the MTV Movie Awards, like an opening skit or something.
That's
it's so ridiculous
too, and it was silly and funny, kind of goofy there too.
But one thing I want to, I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but I want to get all this in. Jon M. Chu, in adapting this for the screen, I think really kind of opened up the world, not necessarily the story, but I don't remember the bit about Galinda's bubble being a mechanical device being a thing in the stage play, because how would they even show that?
Yeah, that's new.
And I love that, because from a stage, especially in the cheap seats where I was, you get a decent view of it, but you're still just watching what you can see from the stage. Whereas from a film, you can watch from any vantage point you want. And when Morrible is talking to Galinda about, oh, here's your new, as your new head, the face of this organization, you've got your own mode of transport, you're sort of a little Pope mobile that you can bounce around in. And we want people to believe that it's magic. So here's a little button that you press with your foot that no one can see, and it enacts this bubble force field. And to make it go away, you just pop it. You keep stepping on it. All the mechanics are hidden within this beautiful kind of ornate chassis. It's a great little device, and it's an enhancement to the original story that not only shows off what you can do in a movie, but also speaks thematically to what Morrible and the Wizard of Oz are doing to manipulate the people of Oz through Galinda the Tool.
That's right.
There's those little touches throughout the film that I think really enhanced my appreciation for what they were doing with the story.
Well, then too, Ian, of course, the symbolism of her bubble being burst. You know,
sure.
like she's not only in the girl in the bubble, which is such a phrase for, you know, people who sort of subscribe to their own tribe and don't see outside their bubble, as the phrase goes today. But, you know, her whole illusions are burst one after another in that second half of the movie.
Yeah,
Darrow never loved her. She realizes that. She never had any power. She realizes that. She's being propped up as and being used to be the face of it, and she has really no skills. And then all these people that she's at least thinking, well, they're at least employing me, aren't even very good about that.
Yeah, I that's the thing, is like the bubble analogy is very easy and it's very surfacey.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing you for bringing it up or talking about it, but what I liked about what Chu, or I don't know if this is screenwriter or production, whoever decided to put this into the movie, it makes it so that kind of easy thematic, like, oh, it's a bubble, it's bursting the bubble, it's a political bubble, whatever. It's given a storytelling mechanic and kind of shown off as like, yeah, it's easy, but we're also going to make it cool.
Yeah.
Katie, yeah.
Well, and one of the things regarding the bubble too is that you see this. I mean, the wizard can't perform magic, but he does have skills that not a lot of people have in this world, which is his intelligence regarding mechanics and everything, because that's how he comes up with the bubble. Morrible obviously has the power of magic, and I feel like especially that scene, when you see, you know, Glinda's beautiful 2-story apartment that she's living in, and then she has her people that she's with and all that stuff, she has her entourage and stuff, and Morrible comes in, it's like, since, you know, she says it but doesn't say it, and it kind of goes over Glinda's head, the fact that, you know, you can't perform magic, but we're doing this for you, so it gives the illusion and all that stuff. And it's just that disdain. I just love the fact that Morrible has just this angry, disgusting disdain towards Galinda throughout the film, and that it's like whenever like when Elphaba is in Munchkinland and, you know, the wizard lies and it's like, you're all gonna die, and like Morrible changes that and all that stuff. But I just like the fact that you've got the magic, you've got the mechanics, and then you've got the face of everything that's supposed to be happening. And one of the things, I know you said that Galinda wasn't always bad and stuff like that, but I mean, she wasn't bad, but I do like the fact that they kind of gave that, they had that little scene that I don't remember in the play or anything, of when she was a kid and she had her wand. And then,
kids,
and that the kids are like, she did something, and then it's like, yeah, that was me. And like, all she wanted to do was be magic, and that's the only thing that she never really had or was allowed to do until the very, very end. And it was, to me, I didn't necessarily understand if the Grimoire was only able to, like, if the Grimoire was only going to allow people who were truly good to be able to be able to recite it and read it. But then Nessa Rose kindly read it, but she didn't really know what she was reading. So that's the thing. But then at the end, how, you know, the magic that Galinda was always trying to get, and the truth that she ended up using as the true power that Elphaba was always trying to, you know, allude to or give the people. But Galinda was the one who finally had the truth. Because if anyone didn't understand, and we do have the spoilers on, but if anyone didn't get that the wizard was Elphaba's dad, if you did not understand that, I do feel a little bit bad for you, because that seemed very, very obvious to me in the first movie. And I know it's supposed to be like the big reveal in the second one, but then, you know, even that the wizard didn't even understand that and stuff like that. And just little keepsakes that Galinda has throughout that she knows, like, this is, we know, what really happened in this story of this life that the two of us, I had this great friend. She is now gone. I had this great love. I don't even think they even talk about like whatever happened to Fierro or anything like that. Just that, I mean, we know what happened to him, but I don't even think once he jilts her at the, well, it wasn't even at the altar really, was it? No. Yes.
Yeah.
It was right before.
Yeah, that's right. It was at the altar.
Because the
and
animals
then
come
there was a
rushing through
conversation
Yeah.
with the guards, all that stuff. But I just like the fact that, you know, at the end, it does seem like the people who are truly good are going to be able to use the Grimoire for the good that it's supposed to be meant to be, like Elpha was trying to do this entire time. I do not think that this needs to be a third. I know they're trying to really say we're going to get into the Galinda thing, and it's like, fine, if you're going to do that, just don't put any music, because I feel like you can't put lightning in a bottle again, and we've seen that with the
other
two.
books.
Yeah, we've seen that with the two additional
Mirror,
songs, and
or
with the thing with
Confessions
Bach.
of an Ugly Stepsister.
I don't remember necessarily. I thought Bach was with Nessa because she couldn't walk, and then he wasn't going to leave because he was going to try and stop Glinda's wedding. I don't remember that in the play necessarily. I remember that when Glinda like gave her the ability to walk, he was like, okay, great, now I don't have to be with you. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, I've been with you because I thought this was the reason why. I didn't really get that. So that was a difference in this. But I know that the actress who plays Nessa Rose cannot walk. So I don't know if that's why they changed it, which I don't think that's a bad change at all. It is interesting, though, seeing Bach being so angry, but also the fact that I feel like he feels like he wasted so much of his life with someone who loved him, but he didn't love, that once he finally was able to stand up and get away from that person, that then they ruined his life even more. And
they do have that in the Broadway musical. It's just not as emphatic because we've got close-ups here. We've got a little more time with Bach and Nessa than we did on the stage. And, you know, you can do a lot in those kind of conditions. They made some other good changes, I think, from the Broadway musical to here. And I mean, the one thing I thought they should have done is if they gave anybody a song, Fierro needed a song in the second movie. I think they could have given him a song. The other song, though, that comes off really good here, I think, compared to it's okay in the musical on Broadway, but it really stuck out here as a really good one, is the song Wonderful. Now, that is a showcase for Joel Grey, or the wizard character on stage, and he sings it only with Elphaba. In this one, it's Elphaba being brought back because of her, you know, pushing away by Galinda. So that makes sense. And then he goes on to sing about, you know, it depends on your frame and your point of view. Like, you know, there's that one lyric where he says, a man's called a traitor or a liberator, a rich man's a thief or a philanthropist. Basically talking about what's your point of view, who's writing history, who's the winner, gets to tell the history. That sticks, I think, in my mind much more here than it did. And the funny thing that I loved about it is the irony of Galinda singing about couldn't be happier. She doesn't sound happy. The melody isn't happy. He's talking about it's all wonderful and it's upbeat and they're dancing and the lyrics are terrible. They're vicious, you know. So there's some nice counterpoints here. And I think the movie version expanded those from the Broadway musical as well.
Well, and Fierro and Elphaba sang, because they sang that song "Be Mine," which was hot as hell.
But that he needed his own song, I think, about maybe Turning in the Scarecrow. If you're going to do somebody's a new song, I'm not sure you need a new Elphaba or Galinda song. They've got plenty.
Well, I think, and that's the thing that struck me about Wonderful. Yeah, maybe it is just, well, possibly recency bias, because I saw the play like 20 years ago, and then watching this movie now, which the director has the ability to emphasize certain things.
Right.
I really liked the song Wonderful, and it struck me as the perfect mirror, the companion piece to Popular from the first film.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, as far as the whole, Katie, you brought this up. If you didn't know that the wizard was Elphaba's dad, based on those clues, then you probably need to take a course in media literacy. I was kind of disappointed. I think if anything can be cut out, it's that angle, because it doesn't serve anything story-wise. When he finds out at the end, when Galinda takes a little, green emerald glass of booze and says, here, I got this from Elphaba, i.e. she's dead, you're her dad. And he looks all like kind of, guilty or surprised or something. So what? I mean, he was foiled anyway at that point. Taking out that very obvious moment from Wicked Part 1 and then scrapping that moment from here, you don't lose anything, because Elphaba, they don't play up the whole like, I never knew my dad, or my dad rejected me, or my dad might be the wizard. That's not important or thematic throughout either film, really. It's kind of dropped in almost like an Easter egg. I think abandoned. I figure either go for it and really say something with that, or just kind of drop it. I don't know if that's a remnant from the book or not.
It is much more important in the book.
Okay. Because I know there's Elphaba's mom was getting busy with a lot of people, and there was a third sibling. Who knew?
Reading is good, everybody. Literacy.
Katie, if you love this, I would. There's got to be an audiobook out there somewhere. I would at least like listen to it at some point, because maybe I'll be disappointed once I get to the end. I have no idea, but from what I've read so far, it's really cool and really worthwhile, and very. I mean, there's F-bombs in this book. I'm not talking about L. Frank bombs, or that's a terrible pun somewhere, but
actually, it's a pretty good pun.
Well, I feel like there needs to be almost like a content warning on the paperbacks, because I can see like you're saying, kids going to see this musical, like, oh, it's based on a book. I want to read the book. And like, there's like F-bombs and all this like lascivious stuff going on, particularly in relation to Elphaba and her father and all the philandering. It's nuts, but very well done.
See, kids, when we're talking spoilers, that means even I get something spoiled. I had no idea that there were three. What?
Yeah. And they all had kind of problems.
Don't give in to these folks who read, Katie. Stay with us. Words burn, folks. Stay with us.
Words burn.
Words burn.
Mark,
oh my gosh. There's a.
Huh?
What's that?
Mark, aren't you a comic book guy?
I am a comic book guy, but that has pictures and words.
It's pictures. It's pretty pictures.
No, I like reading. I just don't get enough time because I have so much that I do that I like to do. I have too many interests. So
remember those library posters from like the 80s about like, they would have Alf or somebody, encouraging kids to read. They need to bring those back, but in the anti-fashion. Okay. So you have a picture of Elphaba melting. And it says, "Words are my water. Don't read."
see, and
well, with this administration, that you may not be far off.
Well,
at least, I mean, if they go Handmaid's Tale, it's going to be like that for a bunch of who knows.
That's another book. Another book you can read.
Don't read. Yeah. I did read that book.
Oh, well, there you go. All right. Well, sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I just want to say that again. For me, I think. And again, as I put in the context, even my review, just for me, the film didn't quite hit like the first one. And how do you defy gravity? Erivo. Oh my God, that final, that thing at the end, that it got an emotional movement out of me. I thought she just nailed that song.
Yep.
In this one, I would have liked it more if we didn't have, and I understand it's from the play, but we didn't have so many connections to Oz, to the original four, to our quartet, to the Wizard of Oz. We know it's in this world, but for me, it was just one of those things where you're right. The Tin Man is angry. At the same time, we really need that though? Because we get Elphaba trying to do good and ended up creating our characters from the first, the main story of Dorothy and her companions and how those characters were created. I thought that was fine. I didn't need the musical number with the Tin Man being so angry. We got that he was angry after he showed up. I didn't need a full because that, and then they also get into the Cowardly Lion's motivation for Elphaba, which I felt was a little weak in setup. In all
Actually,
honesty.
this is something else that I can use some help from the panel on, because it comes up a couple of times that Elphaba had freed the cowardly lion when he was a cub, right?
Yeah.
Was that something from the first movie that I completely forgot about?
Yes.
Yeah,
When
and
did
after
that
the
happen?
classroom with Dr. Dillamont, and they brought in the lion. They're saying that they were going to keep him from being able to talk.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
the lion's voice is Coleman Domingo, which I thought was just wasted because, I mean, after seeing
With 2 lines,
Dead Man Rising and
Yeah.
Coleman Domingo playing a DJ, my God, that man has a voice like velvet. And it's like, to have him in that role really should have been, they really should have utilized his talents, like, because he's just a national treasure.
or just gotten somebody else, because I mean he had like two, maybe 3 lines, and they were all saying the same thing, and I think this could have been a good call, a good case to be made for making this one movie, because when the lion he shows up here and he's all afraid and cowardly, and he keeps talking about how he was freed and, you know, at some point let out of a cage. That scene with Dillamond, the focal point is what was written on the chalkboard afterward. That's the, oh my gosh, that's the punctuation of the scene. The whole thing with freeing the baby lion cub, I mean, it could just be me, but you reminded me of it. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened, but there's no gravitas to it. They almost needed to make it a rule of 3, like have some kind of a callback, or have him show up again between parts 1 and 2. I don't know. It just, I had to really rack my brain. And then, you know, I watched this movie last night. I've been kind of thinking about, like, what was that lion business all about? Now that you've told me, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's right. But it's not impactful in the same way that Bach or Fierro turning into their respective Oz characters was.
Right. But just with them, okay, I loved that they showed them doing that, you know, becoming those characters. That's all I needed. The fact that we came back to a couple of these characters, you know, another time, I get what they were trying to go for, but just for me personally, I didn't need that. I got enough from them creating these characters and seeing how they reacted soon after Elphaba did her thing. That's all that was needed. I didn't want more of those, because I wanted more of Elphaba, Galinda, and that whole
right. Well,
angle.
But as we kind of established, Mark, I think if the Tin Man had been truer to Oz, that wouldn't have been a problem, because the way we're talking about it, it sounds like it's like the heart of this movie. It's not. I mean, it's a few quick scenes, but the one character difference is so striking that it kind of casts, it opens up too many questions about what's going on with those other characters in those other moments. So I want to pull over here as we wind down, because we got some different opinions on this movie from our comment section. Dimpler says the movie sucked. Carl J. Creighton says this felt like the thing that plays after the credits, only 3 hours long. Well, this movie is only 2 hours and 15 minutes long, so I don't know what
Okay.
Flower Bee 007. I was disappointed with second movie. We're just off here, gang. I don't know what's going on. We did not actually enjoy Wicked.
No, I think, again, it comes to personal choice. I mean, we have it here on the panel, you know. I fault no one. Everybody made a great case. Katie made a wonderful case for it. I wish I could have taken that film like she had, but just for me, how I felt with the first one, especially towards the end of it and where they were going with the story, and to see what they did with the story here, I didn't like the other distractions away from the core story. For me personally, I didn't need that, because I was like, I get it, we're in Oz. And then they go, well, I gave her the slippers. I'm like, okay, you're not magical, so how'd you give her the slippers? Okay. And then and then I understand the slippers can't be rubies because MGM, because we talked about it in Return to Oz, how they couldn't have the ruby ruby slippers. You know,
well, but also the Silver Slippers does go back to the original Baum novel.
Yeah.
So,
which my wife explained to me, because she's the reader.
Yeah.
She's the reader of us. Okay, so that I rely on her for the Cliff's Notes of everything.
You know, it could have been interesting. Just as a wrap up thing, I'll make my last case here for it. it wasn't satisfactory with a lot of people on the stage. It's not satisfactory with people on this panel. I know from critics' criticisms, they feel that those are the things that weren't ironed out that they needed to or wanted to. I'm starting to think, as we just hear you guys talk, would it have been smarter to just go 180 degrees in the other direction? For example, Dorothy blows in from Kansas and ends up being transported to this magical land, right? And maybe accidentally kills Nessa. And then she's sent on this journey to Oz to get back home because he's the wizard and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know it gets a little complicated with Glinda's part in it, but if she had picked up people along the way who were unhappy with Oz and they went there because they wanted this, and rather than trying to make them into characters we've already seen, which is nice and clever, and some of those kind of things play in the book, not specifically these things, but they play in the Broadway musical, very clever. It's a lot of laughs, a lot of Easter eggs kind of thing in the thing. But if then we had seen a scene where the wizard is basically doing the same thing that he does in The Wizard of Oz, like, bring me the broomstick and I'll do this, because he's basically saying, I don't want to go kill her, you kill her for me. Yeah. And then we realize that he's this awful man. He's basically using Dorothy as hitman. She's this guileless, innocent person. And yet maybe somehow Fiyero, with not becoming the Scarecrow, is underground working with Elphaba to sort of plan her escape with him, so they can both escape any kind of repercussions by going to their land. I wonder if that just might have been a little bit simpler, but it also could have been working because, that's right, there's unrest and distrust in Oz. And these people were unhappy in the way the wizard was controlling the land, and that's why they're going there to get a better break from it. It's almost like asking your political leader for something and maybe not getting it. Maybe that would have been simpler.
Possibly. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could go with this. I am kind of baffled. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I got out of this movie what I didn't get from the second part of the play. I think that might have been because of the translation from the stage to the screen, which, as we've mentioned, gives you more time to focus on things, get different angles on things, get angles at all because you're not static. But yeah, I think this was much more successful. I've seen complaints that, this movie is too dark. I'm like, well, and I can understand that from the perspective of someone who never saw the Broadway musical, didn't know anything about it, because Broadway is more expensive than going to a movie theater, for sure. or committing to a 477-page book. So this might all be a very big surprise. But as someone who's watched the stage play, I'm like, yeah, this is where it's headed. And if you don't like that, then your problem, as my problem was with part one, it's with the source material and not because it's a bad movie or the movie did something that's kind of unexpected. So Katie, bring us home here.
No, I think there's been what I've seen, a lot of negativity regarding the film, because I feel like it's about expectation. And that's from a number of people who I don't think saw the musical in its entirety anyway. So after seeing the first part of Wicked, as you guys have established, the kooky, yin yang roommates, and how they're just doing wacky, crazy things and like teenage girl stuff and all that stuff. But it is about so youthful and energetic and lighthearted songs and all that stuff. And then the second half, and that's why I kind of got confused with it only being a year, because I feel like in the second half, everyone has grown up so much. Nessa Rose, Bach, Fiyero, all of them are taking on these hugely adult roles that if it's a year's time, that to me is kind of like a little off to me. However,
well, then think of it as 2 years. I think you're right. Just assume that they have matured, whether that's a year that you feel like has been 5 years, as Ian pointed out, or whatever. That's you're reading it right. I think you're getting caught up in the underwear or the semantics of how many days is that. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, also, I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong too, because they did mention 12 cycles, which I assumed was 12 months. It's been a year, but I don't know how time works in Oz.
Yeah.
So 12 cycles could have been 25 years. Who knows?
Or 12.
Ariana Grande still looks great.
Well, or 12. Or
that
12 years.
Working even in Oz 2 years later.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They go from this that youth and energy and stuff in the first one to now the darkness of adulthood and growing up, and the responsibilities that they all have, including Elphaba, who's just trying to get the truth out there. And I think a lot of people had expectations that it was going to be this lighthearted thing and all that stuff, and why is it so dark and all that. But I loved it. I think the message was out there. I think with equality and the truth, and I think the chemistry between everyone, I mean, the casting could not have been better. And
Right.
I do feel like
Do you think
as I
there's
said-
also a problem, Katie, with the fact you're talking about expectations, that since this has become an $850 million global hit, it's become everybody waiting for the second one. In fact, it made better money in the time period this time, so it's enormous. But there's also all these tie-ins now, and I think it permeates some of that gleeful lightness of the first act. And I dare say, I think that's the misnomer about Defying Gravity. At the end of the first movie, when she sings Defying Gravity, you think she's going to kick that damn wizard's ass and prevail. No, she doesn't. She has to sneak away. She can't let anybody know that she's prevailed, and she doesn't prevail. She prevails by getting out of there. She does, Galinda has to do kind of the things she can, like, the addition of putting Morrible in the cage is a nice touch. Like, you have your choice of them. Pick whichever one you want. I don't think you're going to adapt very well, which is very funny. But I think everybody was expecting this to be this upbeat sisterhood, girl power stuff. And all the commercials that they've done, all the marketing things are all treading that line too. And that isn't the movie. That isn't the story. That was the second act of the Broadway musical even.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of another kind of tie-in to a big blockbuster with incredibly high expectations, The Dark Knight. I mean, you had Dark Knight Happy Meal toys with Heath Ledger's horribly scarred face.
Yes.
But both films and Wicked Part 1 ends on the same note as The Dark Knight, where you've got the hero who says, I'm going to be the villain because someone has to. There's a horrible secret. I can't be a part of this anymore, but I'm going to kind of go into hiding. I mean, Elphaba's line in Defying Gravity is, if I'm flying solo, at least I'm flying free.
Mhm.
It is it's like Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind. It's a very poppy kind of radio song, but then you listen to the lyrics like, oh my God, this is so sad and horrible.
Yeah.
But I just got goosebumps again thinking about Defying Gravity. So we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it there. Sorry, Katie, we kind of cut you off. So please, did you have something that you wanted to finish on? Because I feel like we interrupted.
No, I think Wicked for Good is that. If it's changed anything, it's changed the musicals for good. I think hopefully this will get more musicals out there. I think Mr. Chu has done an amazing job. And again, the chemistry is off the charts. It's fantastical. It's, amazing. Metaphorical, and I love the film, and I look forward to seeing it with my mother tomorrow and my sister, as we did with the last one. I'm wearing a completely different Wicked outfit. I will have these glasses. I will wear this ring, if you can see it.
Yeah.
It says W.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's a marketing mayhem. I've got my little Galinda. I've got my, I make sure.
You're the problem. You're doing all the girly shit. It's not about that.
I love it. But it's about, that experience of going to the theater and, making it a fun time, which I love that Barbie did. I think Wicked has done that, at like 5-some. Instead of like, so yeah, I think Wicked is great. And I know, like I said, there are a lot of expectations that would be as whimsical as the first one. There is different magical tendencies in this. It's just darker, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, I don't either. I think this movie, I'm going to use the horrible critic hack word. It's a triumph. Especially, we didn't really talk about the opening of this. I think it's a great kind of 1 year later, or whatever the timeline is, Oz is in a much darker place. They're building this yellow brick road out, which we know from the Wizard of Oz, like, oh, this is kind of this whimsical thing, and we're off to see the wizard on the yellow brick road. And you realize it's just the wizard kind of getting his tendrils out from the Emerald City into the land as sort of this means of control.
With
And
slave labor.
yes,
Who
and
made
Elphaba,
Yellow Big Road? Yeah.
yeah, and Elphaba sabotaging it. I mean, it's a great kind of fun action scene that also showcases, the great effects and the wardrobe. I mean, I wasn't as impressed with Elphaba's outfit from like watching the commercials, but this crazy like rough leather jacket with the big lapels and everything it's just so cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Wicked for good. Mark, I know you're not the biggest fan of it, but I am glad that you didn't leave, because I think, much like the Tin Man, you've been the heart of this episode, kind of bringing up things that you didn't like about it, and asking and inviting us to kind of get into some of the aspects of this movie that could have been stronger or different, or even how we conceptualize, should this been 2 movies or 1 longer movie. So instead of just being a big love fest, we've gotten to some serious critique here. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, and again, I was just bringing up, for me personally, it's no slight on the movie. It's just for my enjoyment of it. It's still a spectacle. It still needs to be seen on the big screen. They chew, as far as the technical aspects go, look for this sucker to show up in every single technical aspect of the Oscars this year. It has to, because it does have some of the best special effects I've seen this year for the most part. There's a few, but not nearly. They're far more polished here than they were in the first Wicked, for sure. And yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, I think it's worth seeing on the big screen. I just think personally, I wasn't as taken with it as the first one, and it's not because necessarily the material. It's just I wanted more of this. When they gave me that, and then they would go away, I'm like, no.
Well, I think, but to that point, I think, given the reaction, despite the box office, I mean, it's made a lot of money, but there has been, I think, more criticism leveled at it than part 1. I think we've kind of dug into what some of those concerns might have been. So, all right, well, folks, we're going to wrap it up here because we've run wicked long, and I definitely appreciate my beloved panelists here. One thing I want to give a shout out. Mike Crowley was not able to be here tonight because he's out celebrating his birthday.
Yay,
it's Mike's birthday.
Mike.
Happy birthday, Mike.
Yeah, check out YPA reviews. You'll probably agree on YouTube, and give him a sub for his birthday. Not only just because it's his birthday, because he's got a hell of a movie review channel over there, and he's also a regular guest here on Earth's Mightiest Critics. So we love you, Mike. Hope you're enjoying your birthday. But we're going to leave it there. Next week, we'll be back with a movie. I'm not sure exactly what we're discussing. There are a few award season options that I might ask folks to come along with me on a journey to see. But yeah, but we'll be back doing something at 8 p.m. Central next Wednesday. That's December 3rd? That's right. Okay. But until then, I'm going to say thank you. I'm Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Jeff York of The Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists, the Wicketful Blonde, Katie Glidewell of The Blonde in Front, and the great and powerful Mark the Movie Man from Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room Podcast. Folks, thank you very much. If you liked this live stream, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring the bell for notifications. Thank you for those who did jump into the comments to offer the exact opposite opinion of us here on the panel. Oh, and Mark's got the Mecco, the Wizard of Oz. That scares me, but I'm fascinated. I can't look away. Anyhow, till next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much. Take care. And yeah, go see Wicked. Why not? Yeah.